Sometimes the most grounding wisdom comes from the most unlikely teacher. Have you ever noticed how animals instinctively shake off tension and move on? Right before a performance for 10,000 people this week, I found myself having an emotional breakdown. Let me take you through what happened and the unexpected wisdom from my dog that brought me back to center. Welcome to Star Potential, a podcast where we explore the meaning of our existence while having a few laughs and sometimes tears through stories from the road of life. I'm your host, Julie Jo Hughes. As a stage performer, my life is quite literally about song and dance. I believe that life here on Earth is a playground for discovery, not a contest to be won. We ask questions together like, how do I evolve my consciousness? And how do you sing a passionate ballad when there's an old guy in the front row with his balls showing? True story. Stick around for these fun conversations. Welcome to Star Potential. I'm your host, Julie Jo. This week, I recalled something from my dog that really saved the day when it came to the performance. So, nature has a way of balancing things out when we give them a little too much importance. I had a show for 10,000 people, and while I wasn't nervous for the actual performance, at least I could tell you that on a conscious level. I didn't feel nervous for the show. In fact, I get a lot more nervous talking to 10 people than I do to 10,000. I have always felt the most comfortable in front of a big crowd. There's something about really being able to feel the palpable energy of that many people. And when I step on the stage, just every fiber of my being comes totally alive, and it's the most exhilarating feeling for me. And I just love having a conversation through song, dance, and dialogue. But as I was preparing for this performance, I had given it more emotional weight than I realized. I was fretting over picking the perfect costume. I was fretting over making sure I wasn't going to mess up certain lyrics that I had on recent shows. Not that it was a big deal as far as the performance goes, but for me, I knew it wasn't right and I wanted everything to be just so. So I had been telling myself that it was the same as any other show, but yet underneath, there was this added weight for this show that I knew we were hiring videography and footage from this show in particular is likely to show up on our social media, on our website, and various promos for the next possibly even several years. So I wanted to make sure that I felt good and confident that day about all the elements of it. Now, I had left for the show plenty early. I was set to arrive about 15 minutes before our actual load-in call time. And so this would give me plenty of time to make sure that I knew where to park and things like that. Where I failed was that we had a map that we had been given, and we were told to open that up when we got to the gate so that the people could see that if we had that file, it would have only been because we were one of the bands and we had access to that document, and that's what allowed us to be able to come backstage and pull right behind the stage for our parking instead of having to park a mile away like everyone else, unload our equipment and everything like that. What I failed to do was to open that document before I got to the place. I didn't realize there was some vital information on it, like the fact that you couldn't just plug the GPS location and drive straight there. Because when I got to the turn where I was supposed to go, everything was barricaded off. It wouldn't let me turn left. All the turning lanes were blocked off. I thought, okay, so I went down the street a few blocks and turned around. The problem was when I came back on the other side, they weren't allowing you to turn in there. And so to make a long story short, I knew I couldn't pull in there, but I didn't know where I could go. And I knew which gate I was going to, and I had these directions that told me where to turn, and they said, go right on Arlington. And I was on Arlington, and I was trying to go right, and they wouldn't let me go right. And so I pulled over and rolled my window down quickly and said, "I'm trying to get to gate 4.5. Where do I go?" And this police officer just started screaming at me, "I'm going to give you a ticket. You can't be here." I said, "I understand. I don't understand how to tell me where to go. Tell me where to go." At this point, another officer comes up, starts yelling at me, "Get out of this. You are ruining traffic." And I said, "I'm not trying to cause problems. I'm supposed to go to gate 4.5. I don't know where that is. Can you please help me?" And he said, "Newport to Arlington, Newport to Arlington." I said, "I don't know what that means. Where do I get to Newport?" Like, I'm driving, right? I can't open up and look at a map and see where the heck is Newport Street from where I am. There are thousands of cars all around me. At this point, this is all in the span of probably 5 seconds, but it just takes me longer to tell the story. A bus is behind me, honking like crazy, and both of these officers are now yelling at me. And I could see that it was going nowhere. They didn't want to help me. So I rolled up my window and I continued driving. At this point, I started crying. Because our body has a way of balancing itself out. The heightened emotion had me nervous now. And what I had denied before was that I actually did have some anxiety over this performance, which I hadn't even admitted to myself. So now, with people screaming in my face and a bus honking behind me and me still not knowing where to go, I lost it. And the waterworks started because I was trying to regulate myself and my body felt the need for some kind of release from all this tension that was building. Long story short, I ended up driving a little further to another exit where there was an officer that didn't take their job quite so life and death seriously. I pulled off to where I was not blocking anyone, and he pulled up a map and helped me and told me exactly where to go. The first thing he said was, "You're all right, you're all right." And I had sunglasses on. I thought no one could tell that I was emotionally upset, but he could feel it right away. And he said, "You're all right, you're all good. I'm going to tell you exactly where to go." And by the time I finally got to Loden, I'm now about 20 minutes late. So instead of being 15 minutes early, I'm way behind, and I was stressed. I thought maybe I was letting everyone down. Everyone was going to be worried about me for this big show. As it turned out, no one was waiting on me. They were still doing other things. Everything was fine. But immediately, my saxophone player could tell I was upset and asked, "What's wrong? Are you okay? What's going on?" I said, "I'm fine. I don't know. I think I'm just emotional or I'm just hormonal. It's nothing. I just don't like people yelling at me." Right? But it didn't really have anything to do with the people who were yelling in my face, because they were also just doing what they thought they needed to do. Maybe they were taking their job a little too seriously, but I didn't need to take that personally. It was honestly just what was happening within me, that it only took a tiny little push to offset that balance, and then I needed to recenter. So now, the focus at hand was, how do I get myself recentered again? Because this was not the pre-show ritual I had intended. Standing at a barricade while police officers yelled in my face and people are honking at me, and I don't know how to get to the stage. It's one of those moments that I like to joke about where my drummer asked me, "Didn't you just flick your hair and tell them who you are?" I said, "I know, I tried that. It didn't work." They didn't care who I was. And then after we did what we needed to do to get checked in, I asked myself, what can I do to get myself recentered? Because this is not the way that I want to go into this show, right? How can I give 100% of myself and vulnerability and play and all the things that I love to do on stage if I'm shaky, if I'm off center? And so what I did was look to nature. And I thought, nature always has the best examples. So what can I do to get myself grounded? And of course, I started by going outside. I took off my heels. I stood on the warm cement platform, and the sun was setting. And as I enjoyed the golden hour, I closed my eyes, placed my hand over my heart, and I took a few deep breaths. And that's always the first step to signaling to your nervous system that you are safe. There is no immediate threat of danger, and we have time to just pause and let our oxygen come in fully. So that was the first thing I did. And then immediately, as I started to regulate, I remembered what my dog always does. And I'm sure you've seen this before, but if I started to go into another room and I started to close the door, and then he wants to come with me. And so he has a couple of seconds of panic of, she's not going to let me come in there. And then as soon as he knows he's all right, he does a full body shakeout, and then he's fine. He lets it go. He's not clinging to that story. He's not for the next 3 hours saying, oh my gosh, I've just had a hard day because, well, first I didn't like what you fed me for breakfast. And then you went into that room and I thought you were going to leave me. And I just need to lie down for a while and process this. No, dogs don't do that, right? The gazelle, when it's being chased by the lion, in the moment of survival is panic-stricken, is racing for its life. The minute that the lion goes the other way or is sidetracked in some way and the gazelle knows it's no longer in immediate danger, it's sipping water from the watering hole. It's not clinging to the story. It doesn't have to go to therapy and tell its gazelle therapist about this one time when it got chased by a lion. No, animals are able to so quickly regulate themselves by shaking it off and moving on. We suffer because of the emotional attachment to the story of what happened. So much more than what actually happened. And so in that moment, I literally shook myself out. I jumped up and down. I shook out my hands. I shook my face. I shook the tension from my jaw. My dog just stretched and yawned, and it was adorable. And that's what I did too. I shook it out. And as I stood there taking a few deep breaths, I felt myself begin to come back to homeostasis. And sometimes it really is that simple. We overcomplicate things with our stories and our unbalanced perception of the importance of certain things and events, especially things that have already happened in the past or things that may not ever happen in the future. So if we can look to nature and learn to drop that clinging and to drop the story of what is happening, the more quickly we can regulate ourselves and get back to the present moment, which is all that exists. All that actually exists in this moment is right now. Not what happened 5 minutes ago, not what might or might not happen tomorrow, but this very moment we're living in right now. So I'm happy to report I was able to feel completely like myself. I had an exhilarating show. I felt so present, and I attribute it all to being able to fully be in the moment with what life was presenting right in front of me. So remember that nature will always find a way to bring itself back into balance. And when we give something a little too much weight or importance, the forces of the universe will undeniably move things around to put things back in balance. Who knew my dog would be the one to teach me how to recover from a pre-show meltdown? Nature's always showing us the way if we're paying attention. And life has a way of rebalancing what we cling to too tightly. The gift is in learning to let go, tune in, and remember that presence, not perfection, is what we're here to embody. Thanks for listening today, and I'd love to hear what this episode brought up for you. Shoot me a DM, comment if you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, or share in our Facebook group, the Star Potential Galaxy. Be kind to yourself, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning into Star Potential with Julie Jo Hughes. If this episode resonates with you, I invite you to take 2 seconds, scroll down, and click 5 stars on the rating. It's a fast and easy way to help the show gain exposure and momentum. If you're loving the show, I invite you to leave a quick review about what you love. Reviews are like gold to podcasters, and to show my gratitude, you'll be entered to win my monthly giveaway when you send me a screenshot of your review. I also made you a gift. It's a 9-minute, simple gratitude meditation with singing to help you practice mindfulness. Just visit me on Instagram at @TheJulieJo or find the link in the show notes. Thank you for your love and support. Until next time, keep shining your light. And that's a wrap.